Well, as the year draws to a close, we tend to like to think in terms of best of, right? What makes the best of list? Well, today it's the 50 greatest photos to ever appear in Arizona Highways magazine. Robert Stevie, the editor-in-chief of the magazine, is with us today, giving us a little sneak peek of the list. And I'll tell you this, a story. A professional photographer that I'm friends with, I saw a little post on Facebook, said, the best issue that he's ever seen.
Wow, that's great.
So,
that's
I mean,
great
among,
praise.
Among photographers. So
yeah, this sounded like a great idea when we started it months and months ago. Just pick the 50 best of all time. Well,
how hard would that be?
Well, as you've pointed out so many times on your show, I mean, we're blessed with a lot of great photography in this magazine. So going back 88 years and pouring over tens of thousands of images, it took some doing.
So what was it, like 6 months, 5 months, 4 months?
We spent about 6 months working
yeah.
on this. And it got more intense as we approached that deadline and tried to, getting it from 10,000 to 300 went pretty quickly. Got it down to about 100, and then cutting it to 50 was brutal.
Well, let's start with the first image here that we see, and it's Salome Wilderness, which I'm embarrassed to say, like many other places that I see in your magazine, I don't know where it is. And why did this make the cut?
There's a lot of reasons a lot of these photos made it in here. Sometimes it's capturing a moment. Sometimes it's just the striking nature of the photo, and I think that's what measured up with this one. This one is in the Salome Wilderness, which is located kind of north of Globe, Arizona. It's sort of the carrot at the end of a very long hike. It's called the Hell's Hole Trail. So I think it's kind of ironic that you've got this Eden-like scene at the end of a trail called Hell's Hole.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you don't get something nice out of Hell's Hole, then
what's the point in going?
That's not a great hike.
Right.
Let's be honest. Let's talk about Lake Powell, because so many people have been there, and quite frankly, I'm a little surprised that it made the list, because it is, I tend to think of places that are off the beaten path that really are standouts in your magazine.
Yeah, this particular image that we'll be showing here, it made it into it. Most people see Lake Powell in the summertime when they're up there on houseboats, and sort of the broad expanse of this image, and then the light and the color and all of those different things.
I retain the right to retract my statement that I just said.
It's quite spectacular. We had one criteria when we went through this. Is this one of the 50 greatest of all time? Because people started on the staff, we had an editorial board that selected these. Some people would say, well, there's too many Grand Canyon shots, or there's too many photos by this photographer. And we had to keep coming back. It doesn't matter if it ends up being 50 photos of the Grand Canyon by Ansel Adams, if it's one of the 50 greatest.
It's the best.
That's all it is. That was one criterion. And this photographer is Gary Ladd. He lives up by Lake Powell. So, a lot of...
Has Gary been to the studio before? I feel like maybe I've met him once.
He's been down here before. I would presume he's probably made it onto your show.
Maybe I've just seen his little byline on the pictures. But let's move to Paria Canyon. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's up in northern Arizona as well. And so much work goes into photography. This particular shot, photographed by Jack Dykinga, who coincidentally had the most photos in the issue. I think he had eight photos. 8 of the 50 were by Jack. And
okay, when people are looking at this, myself included, you go, okay, well, did he do any photoshopping to kind of reverse that image, or did he wait for it to perfectly kind of fall in that reflection?
It's a great question, Steph, because so much work goes in ahead of time to these photographs. Jack actually scouted this over the course of a year. He kept going back different times of the year to see when the light was hitting
right
it
off
exactly.
Camera, there's a tent.
That's right.
Because he lived there.
Well, actually, it's a pickup with a really bad camper top, but it's just about a tent. Although I hear he's got a new refrigerator in his truck. But anyway,
there you go. That's a whole other thing.
And it's a lot of work. A lot of scouting work goes in, and then also, that Lake Powell shot we just saw, a lot of it's being in the right place at the right time.
Well, I want to go to one last picture that we have, and that's of the Grand Canyon, because how can you have a top 50 best of without showing something like this? And it's a great point to end on, because really it kind of typifies the fact that our state has so many picturesque places.
Yeah, and this is another photo by Gary Ladd as well. And you point out so many photos have been taken and published in our magazine of the Grand Canyon. This one just had a different perspective. The way the river, the color was, striking there, and the clouds. It was a very unique perspective on the Grand Canyon, something we hadn't seen before. And certainly it helps, when it's one of the 7 natural wonders of the world.
If what he captures in these images is any indication of what kind of man he is, I would think that he's a very peaceful, a very calm, a very patient man.
It's funny that you would say that. That's exactly who he is. He's like the nicest guy in the world. It's unflappable, super
I say that
nice
only
man.
because I think photography is a great reflection of who's shooting it.
Oh.
So like if you're impassioned about your kids and all the little things that they do, then you can kind of tell who's behind the other side of the lens. But all
yeah,
right,
good get.
Gary
yeah.
is my new favorite.
Yeah, he's very talented.
Not worthy. Not worthy. Thank you so much for doing
Thanks,
this.
Steph.
Give me that. My Christmas present early. You can pick up this copy of Arizona Highways by just going online. We'll have a link for you so that you can pick this up.